right. Hello and welcome to the first podcast. This is our pilot podcast of a new concept that we're trying here at the Abington Launchbox called Entrepreneurship 101. In Entrepreneurship 101, we take a weekly look at three topics related to innovation, leadership, and entrepreneurship, and have quick discussions with faculty, students, community members, and anyone who really has an interest in this topic. So today in our pilot episode, it's just myself. I'm Peter Hornberger, the director of the Abington Launchbox, and our producer of Entrepreneurship 101, Aiden. Hello, Aiden.
Hello, Peter. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for asking. So Aiden, you want to just give a quick introduction beyond your production responsibilities here at the Abington Launchbox and helping, bring life to this new pilot episode of Entrepreneurship 101. Can you give us a little bit of background on you?
Yeah, so this is my third year at Abington. I'm a senior, graduating this semester, actually. I'm a double major, so studying finance as well as business with a concentration in management marketing. So I have some familiarity with your courses, and that kind of brought me here to producing the podcast and getting involved here.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure to have you both in class, but also really helping to jumpstart this podcast series. So I'm excited to get this pilot episode out of the way, so that we can hopefully be bringing this to you on a weekly basis moving forward in 2021. So without further ado, let me give you the rundown of how things work on Entrepreneurship 101. We're going to cover three topics. We're only going to talk about those topics for just 101 seconds. So it's really meant to be a brief conversation, engagement about a couple topics that are current and related to, again, innovation, leadership, and entrepreneurship. So Aiden, I'm going to ask you first. You're going to get the first chance to use up 101 seconds to talk about culture during COVID. So it's no doubt that we've been in lockdowns, in and out of lockdowns now since March of 2020. It's now December 2020. So there's a lot of things that have been impacted by this. And culture is something that I think happens in families, in workplaces. It's how we characterize our beliefs, our rituals, our vocabularies. It's the norms, the values, and the behaviors that we exhibit. So what I'm going to ask you to get us started with is, in a world that's evolving more to a virtual environment, how can culture still be developed and culminated? What are your thoughts? 101 on you.
Well, I think that's $1 million question. It's been a transition for myself just going virtual with school. I know that it's been a challenge to stay connected with students and professors, and losing that face to face does provide a gap. But I think with culture, it comes down to just trying to find some common denominators with yourselves and with who you're working with. Like you said, it's beliefs, rituals, vocabulary, and all our rituals have basically been thrown out the window with this virtual environment. So that almost has made it impossible to get back on track with that. But I think it really amplifies beliefs, and maybe having some firm understanding of some core values of yourself, and then just exemplifying that within a working environment can be huge for setting a culture. It's definitely been a challenge for me, even things like group work with other students. It's just whole different environment, never getting to see them face to face, sometimes never even knowing who I'm working with. So I think just having some beliefs that you can go back to and kind of use when you're working with a group, and hopefully they can see it through your work, is huge for developing a culture. But I'm definitely still adjusting to this virtual environment, and don't know if it's been the best and smoothest this semester, but it's definitely been something to continue to work on.
All right. Good. And so I'll just take another 101 seconds as a kind of response and to build on that. But I really appreciate when you talked about the rituals, the things that maybe we do every single day that are part of our routines, they're part of our values, but maybe we don't even see them as those things. So things that I can tell you, as someone that commutes a long way to work, I have a 65-mile commute from my home into Penn State Abington each day. I have a ritual. right? I wake up, I get dressed, I shower, I eat, I do all those things. But there's even more to that, right? There's the drive. My morning drive of about an hour and 15 to an hour and 20 minutes is ritual. And it was something that kind of became part of me. And I'm not going to complain that I haven't had to make that trip nearly as much now that we're in this mode of virtual education. But that time mattered. It was part of my day. It was part of my routine. And as it was removed when we went to a virtual training mode, I don't know that I had an opportunity, and I believe I missed it, which was I could have consciously replaced that ritual with something else. I would have preferred if I would have replaced it with something like an hour of exercising and working out, and I didn't. So when we think about culture and how do we develop culture, I think there's this opportunity to consciously take the change and build in new rituals that we can take advantage of.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's a great point of it's kind of been a time to where you can look back and reflect and see maybe I didn't take advantage of that, but hopefully going forward, because I'm right there with you. I'm usually 45 minutes, an hour commute.
Yep.
It was part of my routine. It like helps you prepare for the day ahead. And
Yeah,
it's looking back, it's like, wow, so I gained that hour, but what did I do with
that's
it
right. That's a great way to put it.
since then? So yeah, I totally agree.
Good. All right. Why don't you kick off topic number two?
Yeah, so I think it kind of leads right in from culture, and that is leading in this virtual setting. I think culture, having a strong leader is definitely going to help with a culture. And so, just the quick topic here would be, what do you think it means to be a leader? And then building off of that, is there any change that leaders have to adapt to while in this virtual space?
Yeah. So I think leading it's a big question, but I think just in general kind of terms, right? There's a role that you can take on as a leader, and there's varied roles. I personally see my role as a leader in being one that um, is taking chances, right? So I'll take opportunities, but I'll also take responsibility if those things fail. So things like moving into the virtual world, I went heavy into investment. I bought new hardware. I bought a new computer in March because I saw some of this coming, and I wanted to be um, uh, at a place where I was trying some things that maybe some my students and colleagues haven't yet tried, so that I could say I've at least gone down that pathway, and here's what I learned. So that means new software. So using things like OBS to create visual scenes, using different audio equipment, using virtual worlds like Verbella and some other spaces like Mozilla has a virtual space. And I found some things work great and some things didn't work so great. But I think that's what it means to be a leader, is to be at least my version of it is to take some chances and responsibility, so that if you find a pathway, that you're able to accelerate other people's progression towards that pathway. So how do you change that in a virtual space? I think it's you still just need to be willing to take chances, be accepting of failure, but also be open to collaborate and share both your successes and failures with your colleagues.
That kind of made me just change what I was thinking of saying, and I think it's a great point of it also leading is like putting in the preparation, like you said, of
All right.
just
I'm going to put you on the
seeing.
clock, though. Here you go. You're on the clock.
Okay, and just seeing maybe what you thought this environment would look like, and then preparing for that with the equipment and things. I think that's a point that doesn't always I didn't always think of with leading, but just trying to be proactive and almost anticipating what might be ahead. And that is huge for, I think, leading and just maybe showing, taking initiative, as well as again just taking the chances. Maybe rather be over prepared and ready to lead than under prepared. And I think in a virtual space, leading is just taking charge. I think everyone is adjusting to virtually and maybe not always ready to jump right in. There's a gap in terms of just even speaking and being cognizant of maybe am I coming in blurry? Am I fuzzy in my audio and things like that? So just taking it head on and just barreling through it and confidently, and just knowing that you might fail, but someone has to do it. Someone has to start that conversation. Someone has to um, just be prepared to fail. So I think leading in this virtual space is all about that, preparing and then knowing when to pivot, when to adapt, and just making other people maybe comfortable that failure is probably inevitable, but it can be learned from and you can grow from it.
Good. Yeah, and I mean, hopefully you recognize, I recognize at least, that here we're sitting doing a pilot podcast right now. That is the intent, is this can be that pathway that we can now show other students and faculty and community members. Hey, we'd love to have you as a guest on Entrepreneurship 101. Here's what it looks like. This is all you got to do.
Exactly.
So thanks for again the help and the leadership. It's been great to have that coming from both faculty, administration, but also students have really taken great roles in handling this adjustment to virtual world. All right, so we're already up to our third and final topic. That's the whole point of Entrepreneurship 101. We get together, we talk, we connect, but we move quickly through the topics. So here we are, topic number 3, our last topic for the week and for our pilot episode, is talking about now taking action and seizing opportunity. We often hear about entrepreneurship as this concept of both finding opportunity, taking risk, and then taking advantage of those opportunities. There's all kinds of myths out there about some of the largest and most influential entrepreneurs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, where there's been opportunities in their circles around them, and maybe other people have not taken those opportunities because they didn't see things as an opportunity. So we've already mentioned opportunities with our morning routines. We've talked about opportunities with leadership. So I think this is a great way to wrap things up. So, and by the way, the questions all developed by Aiden. So if you're wondering what a producer does, they set up this kind of system so that all we have to do is talk about the things in order, and you get a great show. So what I want to ask you, Aiden, is can an entrepreneur ever be certain of opportunity? And how do you know when to take action when, even if you do identify an opportunity? What are your thoughts on that? You got 101 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, I think just going off of some of your classes and what we've learned in school, but particularly this semester with managing an entrepreneurial startup and what we learned, Management 427, is that the ideas are great, seizing an opportunity is great, but then, like you said, when to take advantage of it and when do you know that that is the golden opportunity? This is what I should pursue head on and with full confidence, or should I be reserved and maybe only go 25% in? So I think that is the huge question. And I think it's really comes down to, again, kind of like leading, being okay with failing and knowing that if you put in 100% effort and that's not the opportunity, it's only wasted if you let that deter you and not repeat it again. You're doomed to fail, but if you repeat not what you did with failing, but just repeat with the confidence you took initially and are not afraid to go back at it again, I think it kind of it eliminates some of the risk of knowing when to take action if you have that consistency in what you're doing and that strong belief. But I think it is impossible to know if it's ever that $1 million opportunity that you're gonna know, like, yes, this, like, I don't know if Jeff Bezos knew this Amazon is, this is it, this is like the culmination of all the failures before. I don't know if he ever knew that, but I think just going and attacking each opportunity with 100% effort is what you need to do.
All right, cool. So part of my take is again probably very similar to what you're talking about as well, but I don't know if you even need to know that an opportunity exists. I think if we go back to culture, if you value taking chances and trying new things, and you also value failure, and that sounds really weird to say, particularly when I'm talking to a student, value failure. Failing is a great way to learn things. I think again, common quote, Thomas Edison talking about inventing the light bulb says, I didn't find one way to invent the light bulb. I found 20,000 other ways not to do it. And that's valuing failure as part of the process of being successful. So we talked about things like maybe transitioning our time to doing more exercise. I don't know that in the moment, at least I don't. I'm certain there are some people that love exercising. I don't. But what I truly value is the benefits that come after. So opportunity is one of these things that I don't think it presents itself as a thing that sits in front of you and you say, I'm going to grab that today. I think opportunity is constantly valuing the unknown, being comfortable with ambiguity, seizing the moment, whatever that moment is, if it results in success or failure, it's all okay. And I think when it comes down to knowing when to take action, it's not taking action isn't just knowing when you're right. It's taking action. Whenever a decision needs to be made, you make decisions. And that's 101 seconds, folks. And that is Entrepreneurship 101 Pilot Podcast.